ever feel like you're just drowning in information? You know, research papers, articles, maybe even your own notes piling up. It's just a lot.
It really is.
We're here to try and cut through some of that noise, maybe give you the essential bits, and hopefully spark a few aha moments along the way.
Yeah, distill it down.
Exactly. So today, we're doing a deep dive into something I found pretty fascinating from the software development world. It's a framework called Simplon PHP.
Right.
And specifically, it's what they call a data-oriented approach, or DOA for short.
And what's really compelling here, I think, is that even though the source material is focused on PHP, the actual architectural ideas, they're much broader.
Mm-hmm.
They offer a really fresh way to think about designing software, so it's, more intuitive, easier to maintain.
Absolutely. And we've got quite a stack of sources for this one. Everything from like a basic intro overview to a really detailed tutorial walking through building something.
So a good mix.
Yeah. Our mission, basically, is to unpack how this Simplon PHP thing promises to simplify complex systems, potentially make development faster, and maybe even revolutionize how we think about data and interfaces.
It's a bold claim.
It is. So whether you're deep in the kind of yourself, managing projects, or maybe you just appreciate, elegant solutions to tricky problems, what does this all mean for you?
Okay, let's dig in.
Let's do it. So before Simplon, right, traditional software development, especially with frameworks like MVC Model View Controller.
Yeah, the classic pattern.
The sources describe it as often leading to fragmented and repeated information. Think about adding just one new field.
Right.
In a typical setup, you might be touching your database schema, maybe a migration file,
Or model class.
the view template where it shows up.
Maybe even the controller logic, routes sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a lot of moving parts for one simple change. Lots of places to potentially mess something up.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And, this scattering of information about what seems like a single concept across all these different files, it just ramps up the complexity.
Yeah.
It makes the whole system harder to understand, harder to build, and definitely harder to manage and update later on. You spend so much time just finding where to make the change.
And that's where Simplon comes in with a pretty bold promise, like you said. They claim it helps you prototype code and change systems faster than, ever before.
That's the pitch.
Yeah, they talk about true view and storage interchangeability, which sounds interesting. Extreme ease of reuse, extension, adaptation.
All the good stuff.
Right. And a significant simplification of the code itself, how you make changes, even the documentation. Plus, they say it's easy to learn.
Which is always a plus.
That's a really compelling list, especially if you've ever been stuck wrestling with a big, complicated code base.
Definitely.
So, okay, that's the problem they're trying to solve. But what's the actual solution, the core idea? That brings us to this DOA thing, the data-oriented approach. What is that exactly?
Well, at its heart, all software is basically about information, right?
Yeah.
Exchanging it, storing it, processing it.
Sure.
DOA shifts the focus. It says, let's make it really clear and simple to define and modify what information this system needs to handle. What it displays, shares, transforms, stores.
Okay.
It's described as a paradigm that sort of complements traditional object-oriented programming, OOP.
Right.
It doesn't replace it.
Right.
It adds necessary information, metadata basically, to make these objects, which simply calls elements, automatically managed by the interface components and the storage components.
Huh. So if I'm getting this right, instead of me jumping between a model file for the data structure, a view file for how it looks, and a controller file for the logic, DOA puts all the information related to one piece of data or one concept into a single element file.
That's precisely it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really leans into encapsulation. It unifies all that information about one single concept within one class, the element type class, and so it all lives in one single file.
Wow.
So for you, the listener, whether you're coding this stuff or managing a team doing it, this could mean a really dramatic reduction in the number of places you have to touch for a common change.
That makes sense.
The source material has this great example. Adding a new field in DOA, they say it takes literally one line in one file.
One line.
One line, one file. Whereas in other frameworks, you might be editing, 5, maybe more files for the same result.
Okay, that sounds like a huge difference.
It's a significant potential leap in efficiency, yeah.
Honestly, when I first read that bit, the one line, one file idea, that was the real aha moment for me.
Right, it clicks.
It feels like such a fundamental shift. It's not just about typing less, it's about reducing the mental load, right? And the chances of introducing bugs because you forgot one of the 5 files.
Exactly. The cognitive load and the surface area for errors.
Imagine that on a big team. We're trying to maintain something years later. That's huge.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head. Many of the most common changes developers make, adding fields, removing them, tweaking them, suddenly become modify one spot in one file operations. And if you zoom out, think bigger picture. This could dramatically simplify and speed up the whole process, both creating the system initially and then evolving it over time.
So for project managers, that could mean faster delivery, maybe more predictable timelines.
Yeah, that's certainly the implication, yes.
And what about folks already comfortable with OOP? Is this a whole new thing to learn?
Well, Simplon argues the learning curve is pretty minimal because these DOA elements, they're still objects.
Yeah.
They retain all the advantages we like about OOP. Modularity, reusability, maintainability, modeling real-world things, scalability. It's presented as getting the best of both worlds, really.
Interesting. So you keep the OOP structure, but get this data-centric simplification on top.
Precisely. And this leads us right into adaptability. The sources really emphasize that the interface objects and the storage objects in Simplon can work with any element.
Any element.
Any element. They talk about taking interoperability and reusability to trans-systemic levels, is the phrase they use.
Trans-systemic. Okay. What does that mean in practice?
Imagine, like, swapping out your database. Maybe you start with MySQL, but later want to switch to MongoDB.
Yeah, that's usually a big job.
Right. They suggest you could do that transparently, almost instantly, without changing your core system elements at all. Same idea for the user interface. Go from HTML web app to, say, a Windows desktop app, or even Swift UI for Apple devices.
Without touching the core logic.
Without touching the core element definitions. That promise of near immediate technology swaps is, well, it's a very powerful idea for future-proofing things, reducing that tech stack lock-in fear.
Okay, that does sound almost magical. How robust is that claim based on the sources, and how does Simplon actually pull off this automatic management and seamless interchangeability?
Yeah, it does sound a bit like magic, but the key is metadata. We touched on it earlier.
Right, the extra information.
Yep.
Exactly. Simplon achieves this by embedding that necessary information directly into the elements and the data definitions. So all your element classes, they derive from a base class called SCElement.
SC for Simplon Core, maybe?
Probably, yeah. And these classes have built-in methods to provide all that metadata, things like the database table name or the collection name if you're using NoSQL.
Okay.
Also, the names people see, the user-facing names, singular and plural. Even predefined phrases